Discover which of the hero's physical mutations have the best side effects and which of the correlating quirks is the strongest in My Hero Academia. With around 80% of My Hero Academia's population possessing some kind of superhuman ability, it is only natural to classify these quirks and their users into subsections. Not all quirks are obvious at first glance and take some critical analysis to figure out what they do, whereas others are pretty obvious from the get-go due to the severity of the individual's mutation. Heteromorphic quirks drastically change the user's genetic structure, leaving them with a less-than-human appearance and more physically obvious abilities. Unfortunately, these severe physical mutations often cause the affected heroes to become rejected and sidelined from society. It seems that the villains are not the only ones who have faced grave discrimination in their pasts, as many heteromorphic heroes also have tragedies sprinkled through their backstories in My Hero Academia. Kugo Sakamata really goes out of his way to give the students a tough time during the provisional hero license exam by brutally preparing them for the worst-case scenarios expected from their line of work. His killer whale-inspired Ursinus bestows the number 11 pro hero with the powers of these awesome sea creatures, without the restriction of underwater antics. Emulating the killer whale's hunting technique, Kugo can shoot a highly concentrated hypersonic pulse at his enemy, which can induce paralysis upon contact. Gangorka's durability is incredibly admirable, as he manages to withstand Todoroki's intense fire-based attacks for quite some time. While it is unclear what Shinji Nishiya's face looks like behind that mask, not all the wood-based elements of his appearance are part of the costume, but rather his plant-based mutation. With a leafy bush growing out of his head and extendable bark-encrusted appendages which can be manipulated at will, Groot-style, Kamui Woods prefers to stay out of the spotlight whenever possible, leaving Mount Lady to sap up all the attention. The number 7 pro hero has received a healthy amount of screen time overall and has proven himself quite valuable within a team, as his arbor attack is great at incapacitating the enemy. His arboriaceous growths also help extensively with Kamui Wood's mobility, and he can also create a nifty timber cage called a lacquered chain prison that is large enough to detain multiple foes at once. Arguably the cutest heteromorphic around is the perky pink-faced beauty of Class A, Miss Mina Ishido. Viewers can't help but admire her upbeat, passionate personality, bold fashion sense, and corrosive quirk, making her one of the most popular side characters in My Hero Academia. Pinky can shoot a gooey acidic substance from thin air, with the ability to control how corrosive or gelatinous the liquid is. Mina can manipulate acid to her will, spraying an overwhelming shower or a precise stream of fluid, which she can also skillfully use to skate across surfaces. Mizo Shoji doesn't often get a chance to shine, but when he does, it is quite a memorable experience. This tentacle hero can create multiple limbs which can have different body parts, with enhanced capabilities of their own, affixed to their ends. Webbing also grows between each extremity, which can grant him the power of flight. Alternatively, the excess skin can form a protective pod in which allies can hide. Due to the scarring on Shoji's face from the traumatic abuse suffered as a child, the young hero prefers to keep his features covered and speaks with his augmented appendages instead. Theoretically, Shoji should have no limitations on how many limbs he can produce, however, it would take an immense toll on his body and mind to individually control more than 20.
The man at the front lines of Team Edgeshot's infantry in the Paranormal Liberation War is none other than Ken Ishiyama, better known as Cementos. While his quirk may seem arbitrarily specific, manipulating cement comes in very handy within Japan's urban scenery, providing the pro hero enough playthings to keep him entertained. Even the esteemed recovery girl commends cement for being one of the most difficult quirks to counter. as Ken can create any form he can think of, with a seemingly non-existent time limit to his alterations. From militant fortifications to swelling concrete-based tsunamis, Cementos certainly dominates most battlefields. Not many could outsmart this beastly leader who, for some reason, is very secretive about what type of critter he may be, with mouse, dog, bear, or stout being the most popular estimations. Equipped with superhuman intelligence, Principal Nizu has the capacity to conquer the world, but thankfully he is quite content nurturing the young minds at UA High School instead. Principal Nizu's IQ is quite literally off the charts thanks to high spec, and his mousy appearance is not indicative of how efficient he is on the battlefield. His students are well aware of how ruthless he can be when needed. Nizu is often responsible for strategizing, particularly when it comes to the hero's security, and he enjoys taking rides on his subordinates' shoulders whenever possible. With the head of a raven and a shadow as dark as coal, Fumikage Tokoyami's iconic look is one of the coolest things about him, along with his extraordinary powers, honorable characteristics, and dark knight aura. This deadly duo's foreboding appearance generally gives them the upper hand, as Fumikage's villainous aura is intimidating enough on its own. Deep down, he is actually a big old softy, while Dark Shadow can be quite cowardly at times, not that the enemy needs to know that. Dark Shadow, which is technically an emitter quirk, is a sentient creature of the night with overwhelming strength and can grow to a colossal size, so long as bright lights stay away. Although the pair are permanently connected, Dark Shadow can stretch to cover quite a considerable distance, and with Hawk's help, Fumikage eventually also discovers the power of flight, sufficiently completing his bird-inspired look. As one of the gargantuan gals of My Hero Academia, Ryuko Tatsuma, aka Ryukyu, is one of the most potent female forces in the pro-hero lineup and is the unofficial girl power representative thanks to her respectable status and accomplished hero agency. The wings and claws that adorn Ryuko's head whilst in her human form are simply part of her costume. The heteromorphic traits of her transformative quirk only come into effect voluntarily. Ryukyu can transform into a tremendous Western-style dragon with an appropriately ferocious jaw, claws, and a pair of robust wings to boot. Her rock-hard skin is almost impenetrable. She possesses enough strength to airlift several passengers at a time, and is the perfect combatant against overpowered Nomus.